And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Doctor, that podcast that goes 5 years without sleeping, because this week we watched Sleep No More.
Written by Mark Gatiss.
Directed by Justin Molotnikov.
And aired on November 14th, 2015.
It's pretty easy to make Molotov out of that name.
Pretty easy to make Molotov cocktails.
Not sure how true that statement is. But
Pretty true.
Don't need to rearrange the letters to make Molotov out of that name. You just delete some, and you get Molotov.
Sweet.
Have you made Molotov cocktails before?
No.
How would you know they're easy then?
Seems pretty easy.
Just budding arsonist on our show. I mean, I guess you kind of just shove a cloth into, like, some alcohol.
Yeah, some alcohol. I'm sure there's more to it than that. Or maybe not. I don't know. Honestly.
Somehow I'm going to say probably not. Probably not. So, Sleep No More. Mark Gatiss was like
Mark Gatiss based this title off of my life.
Don't you just, like, die if you go, like, more than a week without sleeping or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's less than that, actually.
Might even be less than that, yeah.
Yeah.
If you stay awake for a couple days, you just, like, die.
Yeah.
I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've stayed awake for, like, 50 hours before.
Yeah, at the end of it, you were like, I feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah.
You were like, this is a mistake.
Yeah, well, as What's-His-Face says, you waste a third of your life sleeping.
Is it a waste if it keeps you alive, though?
I'd use Morpheus. Hell yeah. You just have to make sure not to get caught by the Sandmen.
Great.
And with your added, alertness from not having to sleep anymore and just getting all your rest in 5 minutes, that should be pretty easy.
Don't you start to go paranoid, like, after a couple... Like, before you end up just dying from no sleep, I'm pretty sure you go, like, insanely paranoid.
I don't know. Look, all I'm saying is if they can iron out the kinks in Morpheus, it's a great idea.
I don't...
The doctor is wrong, okay? He's just flat out wrong. Sleep is not a wonderful thing.
I disagree with you on that one. Mark Gatiss was like, I want to do something different with Doctor Who. And Moffat was like, what do you mean?
By different, do you... No, okay, never mind. I'm not going to denigrate Mark Gatiss as much as I was about to in that sentence.
Gatiss was like, I want to make a found footage episode. And Moffat was like, all right, go for it. And this is what we got.
All right, well, this is pretty good. I really liked this one, actually.
I liked it, but not as much as the rest of this season. I feel like it's a little ham-fisted at parts. Like, it's not... I guess it just didn't execute on the premise for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things they can do with something like this. And Mark Gatiss went for something pretty cool, which you can kind of pick up on. There's clues to it as to, like, all right, is this really camera footage or not, type thing.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is cool. I guess my problem with it is just that, like, at some parts it feels like, I guess, the crew, not limited to Mark Gatiss, didn't really know how to make a found footage thing, because sometimes the I guess voiceover narration will tell you something, and then immediately in the next scene, like within the footage, you'll get told the exact same thing. Like, why did you even need the narration then? Because it would have felt like a lot more natural if you just restricted it to only the things that were in the actual scene.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's what's his name, like, talking over, because what it's supposed to be is he's showing you this footage, like, after it's all done, type thing.
Yeah, but still, just felt like...
Yeah, well, I thought
clunky, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
What could have been cool about this is if the whole thing wasn't like, you're never going to sleep again, like, because then right after you watch it, you just go to sleep, and you're like, oh, well, that was a complete and total lie. Kind of reducing the meta aspect of it. If it was something that you couldn't prove, or like something that would just haunt your mind, then it would be better, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Because like literally right after this ended, I was like, oh, I'll just go to sleep.
Yeah, it was like an hour after this ended, so I had to look up stuff for Men in Black. It was like an hour after this ended. I was like, well, guess I'm going to sleep now. And I just passed out, and I woke up, and I was like, wow, thanks, Morpheus. Thanks. Although I woke up like more tired than normal today, so thanks,
Whoa.
Morpheus.
Wow,
Thanks.
maybe that was the doing of this episode. You know, I did too.
Did you?
Yeah. Maybe we're just in the Matrix right now. Speaking of the Matrix, this episode starts with Matrix-esque text. Still going strong almost 20 years later.
Yeah, it just starts with numbers on the screen. Well, it doesn't actually start with the numbers on the screen, because first we get a voiceover slash... I don't know what you call it. It's just like a head-on shot of Rasmussen.
Yeah, he's just recording a video of himself saying like, "So I'm sure you're wondering who I am and why I'm here."
And he's like, "If you're watching this, don't watch this." And at first you're like, "Wow, seems kind of weird that you'd transmit this thing to the universe that you don't want them to watch." But then it all makes sense at the end of the episode. So
we get some Matrix text on the screen, and there's part of it spells out Doctor Who, but then also in like a crossword style fashion, part of the Doctor Who is also Clara Oswald.
yeah,
I guess that serves as the intro sequence for this episode because there is no regular intro sequence.
yeah. I guess to really get you into the mood of this being in universe, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the thing about the found footage kind of style of this, is that it's trying more directly than previous episodes to place you within the universe of Doctor Who.
Yeah, this is a very meta episode.
Yeah, right down to like the Doctor even mentioning that it's a meta episode, like pretty much directly at the end. He's like, kind of seems like this is all just a story.
What was I watching? I was watching some movie the other day where the characters were like, "It's not like this is a movie or anything." Like, come on, like every movie that they do
Yeah, like
that,
a
and
ton
like
of movies
surprisingly
do
every
that.
movie in books too. They're like, "It's not like we're in a book or anything."
Yeah, a lot of like cop procedurals will do that, because someone will be like, "Hey, can't we just XYZ?" And the hard-boiled cop will be like, "This isn't a
think this is a
movie."
movie?
Yeah, do you think this is a movie? We can't do that. And they immediately do something that only happens like in the movies.
I thought this episode was gonna go for the whole thing they've been building up of Clara's like the next Doctor or whatever, because of the whole Clara Oswald / Doctor Who crossword thing. But this episode is actually the most light on that of any this season, I think.
Next week.
Oh boy. Yeah, Riggsy comes back next week.
So
Maybe
does well, I guess
the boneless, are they back?
I guess I shouldn't
to take
say
revenge against Riggsy.
I guess I shouldn't say, because she didn't actually appear in the preview. You just hear her voice.
I don't know. You're talking about Missy, maybe. I'm just gonna go with that.
Guess you didn't recognize her voice then. Guess you'll see next week.
Sarah Jane? No.
No, I'm
Elizabeth Sladen.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
died.
Elizabeth Sladen passed away before this episode. So Rasmussen is like, "Let me introduce to you all the characters with these on-screen graphics I had time to make."
Yeah, this is supposed to be minutes after like the big climax, so it's just like,
it's
open Adobe Premiere.
it's fine. It's fine if you don't think about it, but as soon as the episode ends and the guy's like, "Yeah, the station is like crashing, and I'm filming this like as I'm about to crash into Neptune," you're like, "Wait a minute, how did you have time to make all those on-screen graphics then?" Maybe
Well, he would just have to make one, and then he would just replace the text.
Well, so saying on the other hand, is kind of implied that he set all these events in motion specifically for this purpose, so he might have just had them pre-prepared. That's a bit of a tautology, but anyway.
So we're introduced to all the characters. So we got Nagata, who is sort of the leader.
She's Indo-Japanese.
Yeah, they all are, because that's what this whole society is.
There's Deep Ando. There's Chopra. And then there's 474.
Yeah, who is, I forget the actual word they use, but...
Grunt. Because
Grunt.
Rasmussen's all like, this guy doesn't need any introduction because we all know what a grunt is, right? And I'm like, no, I don't know what a grunt is.
Well, you'll soon learn.
Yeah,
This is all taking place on a space station.
It's orbiting Neptune, I believe.
Yeah, well, the whole Indo-Japanese society or whatever is from Triton, I think.
Yes,
Which is like a
something.
moon of Neptune, I think.
Also, the doctor, when the doctor appears, he offhandedly mentions to Clara that this is like after the great catastrophe. And Clara's like, wait, what? And he's like, oh, yeah, just like India and Japan, like,
Merge.
yeah, like they
Physically, they like
merged.
crash into each other.
And Clara's like, wait, what? And the doctor's like, yeah, don't worry about it. You have a lot to look forward to. Except she'll be dead by that time because it's the 38th century. Unless she, like, is like River Song now and can just regenerate.
Hopefully.
Tend to always forget that River Song is like gains the power of regeneration because she was like born in the time vortex and that was it. That's how you gain the power of regeneration.
Hopefully, Clara's like near immortal now. Best companion of the new
Be
series.
careful what you wish for, buddy. Be careful what you wish for.
I don't know if I'd rank her above Turlo. Turlo is still
Solo's up
pretty
there.
high up there. Yeah.
Susan's up there. Ian and Barbara are up there.
It's a lot of just
Donna's up there.
nostalgia talking. Nah, I wouldn't put Donna up
I'd
there.
put Donna up there.
I think my top five is Turlo, Tegan, Nissa, K9, Clara.
Yeah, K9's up there. Romana's up there for me.
I guess they're all up there then, except Adric. He's way, way down there.
No, I mean Vicky, Yeah, my top five is Vicky, Dodo,
Adric,
Andric,
Danny
Chameleon,
Pink.
and Danny Pink. I want a spin-off where it's just Danny Pink and K9 talking for an hour.
Talking for an hour
And
about what?
Danny's like, I'm a soldier, and K9's like, okay. And then Danny's like, yeah, but you don't get it. It's
Danny-
important. And K9's like, all right, I don't really care.
Wait, this could be amazing. This could be like the poem "The Raven," but instead of like the guy going crazy from the Raven just saying "nevermore," it's K9 just saying like "all right" or like just saying giving one word answers, and it's Danny Pink getting over his trauma,
Getting over, more like
reliving his trauma.
reliving it.
This would be amazing.
Would it?
Yeah, get on that, BBC. Can't believe this hasn't been made yet.
I can.
I can't believe you've done this, BBC.
I hope you watched
Rather, I
that
can't
video.
believe you haven't done this. Yeah, of course I watched. It was only 10 seconds.
And it was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like to believe that it wasn't staged.
I don't think it was. The guy's slap was more like a punch than a slap. I remembered it being more slap-like.
I did actually find the Jeremiah Denton POW blinking video where he blinks out torture, and it's not subtle at all. Not at all. When I scroll down to the comments, though,
We have to link both of these in the show notes again.
Yeah. One of the comments was like, I bet he did this for like months before they recorded the video to make them think he just blinked like that normally.
That would make sense, actually.
But that was just
That'd be a
speculation.
lot of effort.
Yeah.
I found out that he came back and became like a United States Senator after that.
Oh, wow. Nice.
POWs have a history of, not POWs, soldiers, I guess, or war heroes, actually more accurately, have a history of getting elected to high office in the United States because they have stories that
John
people
McCain.
like, I guess. John McCain, Andrew Jackson was a war hero.
George Washington.
George Washington was a war hero as well. He's a general.
It all goes back to the genesis of this.
Pete Buttigieg running for president this year. I don't know if I'd say he's a war hero because I don't actually know his like service history, but he's a veteran. So there you go. Foolproof way to get elected to Congress. Anyway, we see this rescue team arrive on the station because they're not actually the crew.
They're
The
investigating.
station's gone silent,
the
so they're
missing
investigating.
crew.
Yeah. And then
So they're
the
walking
Doctor and
through-
Clara kind of just show up.
Yeah, and one important thing we're told in all this sort of intro sequence is that all the footage that we see is from the cameras of the crew,
Yeah.
which, if you're paying close enough attention, you realize is not true pretty early on, actually. Because the Doctor and Clara are there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when the first instance of this is. The first time I noticed it was when we get to the Morpheus room, but it might be before that. But you actually do see shots from the Doctor or from Clara's perspective.
Yeah, but
I guess
only
it was
after
in
the Morpheus room. You only see shots from her perspective after the Morpheus room, and that was the first time I kind of noticed it too, because I was like, but Clara's not wearing like a helmet or a helmet cam.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there, but I think they played up a little too much with like the doctor staring into the camera for like 10 seconds without saying anything or doing anything.
Again,
like,
that's just the production crew
just
not really knowing how to do a found footage kind of thing.
I think what that is all about, right, is that's when I first noticed it. It's like, all right, like this is all supposed to be cameras, but like who's the doctor looking at right now? What are you seeing? It's Clara, but like it's so long and drawn out that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's Clara. That's a little weird. What's going on?
Yeah, well, that's just Rasmussen messing with your mind.
Anyway, the doctor and Clara pretend to be
engineering inspectors, I think it is. Although we see the psychic paper is blank, so I guess
it always is.
No, but this is supposed to be like from the perspective of the people in the stories.
Well, it's the sand. I guess it's not. The doctor's not tricking the sand.
I mean, at first when I still thought it was helmet cams, I was like, yeah, maybe cameras don't like record
vampires. Is the psychic paper a vampire? I feel a new fan fiction coming on.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh no.
No, not really. Been reading a lot of My Immortal recently.
Oh,
Just
no.
pick a chapter and go for it.
Tom Bombadil's in that. I never knew that.
I also found another great My Immortal level fan fiction called Sonic High School. But I'll leave that for another time. Still going with it too. The
oh no.
author came out with a new sequel this year.
I remember reading about a guy who wrote like a 600,000 word fan fiction about, what was it about? I don't remember.
So they go and investigate. And
as always, I'm pretty sure we've said that in like every...
It's all they're doing. It's literally
like
all they're doing.
Every summary we've ever given on this show. So they go and investigate. Damn, we should have called this podcast So They Go and Investigate.
A Doctor Who podcast. Investigative Doctor Who podcast.
Investigative journalism about Doctor Who.
Yeah, so they're walking through the corridors, and 474 freaks out because it sees something. Wow. Sorry. Wow. Sees something out of the corner of her eye, and it's one of the sand monsters as we learn later. But I believe what happens here is that Chopra, who we've already seen at this point, Chopra is not too fond of 474. And Chopra has a negative reaction to this, and 474 like almost deep sixes Chopra.
I thought it was deep endo, and I thought what happened was 474 was like, or maybe it was Chopra.
I think it was Chopra.
Chopra pretty and puts her hand on his face, like kind of strokes his face, and he slaps her hand away, and then she reacts to that. Because then the god is like, she reacts to freaking violent tendencies, dude. You basically attacked her. He's like, she could have killed me.
Yeah.
Deep sixes. Maybe that's why his name is Deep Ando.
Because he just deep sixes people?
Yeah.
What if what was the episode where like the entire crew was like criminals or whatever? Am I just making this up now that I think about it? It was a crew similar
Blake
to this.
7?
No, I don't know.
The entirety of Blake
it wasn't
7?
Blake 7. They weren't all criminals, okay?
Yeah, they were.
No, they weren't.
They were.
Dana wasn't. I mean, other than the people she like killed.
She was. She literally committed
She
murder.
wasn't like a convicted criminal.
Okay. We literally see her commit murder. She literally wants to try assassinate the president of the Federation.
But she wasn't convicted. She was never brought in.
Yeah, because they'd much rather just silence her. Because I guess maybe she had some valid points.
The rest of them were all brought in. Like Blake was screwed over multiple times. Avon got caught like the scrub he is. Jenna got caught like the scrub she is. Villa got caught like the scrub he is.
Callie.
Gan got caught like the scrub he is. Callie was exiled like the scrub she is. Or was.
But then Callie gets called into question, but then you also call into question the calling into questions, so
Yeah, I
I guess
mean, I
Orak
guess,
wasn't a
we
criminal.
never
I
discussed
guess.
this, but like Servalan herself is also a huge, criminal, and I guess just like the difference between Servalan and the main crew is that they were like, I don't know, committing their atrocities on the wrong side of the line, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we did actually talk about this at least a
Yeah,
little
maybe
bit.
we did check out Zenith or Blake Seven podcast.
So, are you thinking of Journey to the Center of the TARDIS? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
So those
I,
three guys were
they were like
not exactly
salvagers, but they were just
criminals, but
sketch as
yeah,
hell.
they were like doing it illegally. I don't know. I thought of like multiple other non-Doctor Who things when you said the entire crew is criminals.
Yeah.
So if there was a Doctor Who episode about it, it's less memorable than Blake Seven, Dark Matter, and the 100. So
Or the usual suspects. That really fits in with those.
anyway, so they find this room full of. They look kind
Morpheus.
of like it's called
Lawrence
Morpheus.
Fishburne from The Matrix. He's in this.
They look
No,
kind of like. They look kind of
Morpheus. They look kind of like Morpheus.
great. No, I'm gonna say they look like
Morpheus.
kind of like
Morpheus.
deep sleep pods, cryopods. That's what I'm looking for. But it turns out they're like the literal exact opposite of that, because you just get in, like zaps your brain, then you can get out without having to sleep. And when I heard what they were called, I wrote down, of course they're called Morpheus. Of course. Not one for subtlety here.
Yeah, so the doctor is kind of checking out what the sand is made out of because an arm made of sand reached into the room before they closed the door. And it turns out it's organic matter.
Which
Free
isn't like
range.
really a surprise. It being organic matter isn't really a surprise.
No, and I mean, just because it's organic doesn't mean it's free range or even cage free.
Great.
By the way, PSA here, cage free does not mean free range. Cage free can technically mean like the animal is in like a literal 4x4 like pen. That's not a cage. If you really want like off the farm like animals, you're looking for free range. Yeah.
Are my free range cages called cage free range?
Okay. There's an open pasture, but all the animals are in cages. Or you know what? You can just have your own chickens. It's such a better, healthier, and more fun, and also more maintenance and work option.
And also more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Clara gets real pedantic because as soon as someone name drops Morpheus, she's like, Morpheus, god of sleep from Greek mythology.
Well, she says the god of dreams.
Yeah. So
You're like, wow, Clara. Why did you teach like this in class?
Why did you spend 5 months on Jane Austen, Clara? Why?
Maybe she had an affair with Jane Austen. She did say she was an excellent kisser. Let her go, Clara. Let her go.
Even more proof that Clara is an awful teacher and should be replaced by The Rock.
What?
Yeah, Clara is the doctor. The Rock is the doctor.
The Rock was the doctor.
Therefore,
Yeah,
The Rock is Clara.
Maybe John Cena should be Clara.
God. All right, so we have John Cena as Clara. The Rock is the doctor. Vin Diesel is the young doctor.
We're basically just turning Doctor Who into WWE at this point.
Was Vin Diesel a wrestler? He wasn't, right?
I
don't think he was.
I'm going to Google it right now because I want to know, actually.
On the spot Googling.
I'll
just filibuster while you Google.
You filibuster.
So, how's everyone been doing?
Was Vin Diesel a wrestler? No. He was not a wrestler. Damn. But he wasn't Saving Private Ryan, which is very surprising, actually.
Yeah, who was he in Saving Private Ryan?
Oh, I don't know. I closed the page now.
Damn. He was Matt Damon. He played Matt Damon in a movie that Matt Damon is already in.
Anyway, Clara accidentally gets sucked into a pod. She gets spit back out, and this is when we start to see things from her point of view. And then one of the other pods has someone in it, and it opens up, and it's
It's
Rasmussen.
the Fisher King.
The Fisher King. Surprise! And the doctor's like, I thought I killed you. And he's like, yeah, well,
You thought a lot of things, Doctor.
Morpheus saved me.
So we get a hologram that explains it's what Morpheus is. And it turns out that it's not a sleep pod. It's a pod that makes you not need sleep. You get all your sleep for a month within a 5-minute span.
Yeah.
And
Kind of have to wonder why you need
and-
like 5 of them, since you could just use one for like everyone, right?
I guess the doctor and Clara and Chopra, surprisingly enough, are like, yeah, that's not a good idea. Everyone else is like, what could possibly go wrong?
Pretty sure that was... no, you're right, it's Chopper. Chopper.
Yeah.
I thought it was Deep Endo.
Chopra was the one who just hated everything, from 474 to Morpheus to just life in general, I think.
Yeah, well, Chopper has reason to dislike Morpheus, as we find out in like literally 5 minutes from now.
Well, it's not even literally 5 minutes. It's like as soon as you hear this thing, it's like, all right, that's extremely sinister, especially because right now Rasmussen is, he really like plays up the like capitalistic, like greed aspect of this of like, yeah, the main like reason why this thing is important is so that people can like work all the time and
Yeah, even
make
in the
more money.
voice, even the voiceover, she's like, "Why stop work to go to sleep when you could work more, revolutionizing the labor industry?"
And Chopra even says like that Morpheus is colonizing sleep, which I want to talk about some of the colonial aspects of this story at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you had a few topics you wanted to touch on here, so.
Yeah, if by a few you mean like 1.5. Well, I just wanted to talk about the prevalent man versus machine themes throughout this story. You seem a little skeptical.
All right, yeah, no, I'm seeing where you're going with this. I didn't pick up on any of these, but yeah.
Well, it's more heavily, I guess, explained by the doctor, but he talks about how, I can't remember if it's like right now, if it's when they're in the cold storage room, but at one point he basically like pretty much says, he's like, you humans, like, sleep is like perfectly natural and normal to everyone in the galaxy, but you humans are like so impatient, you have to like basically invent a machine to get around sleep, basically inventing machines to do everything, I guess. There's also the whole, there's no helmet cams thing, but then where is the footage coming from? Like, recording footage is a very technological kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's no helmet cams, and then it's revealed that later on it's actually the dust itself that has this capability of actually seeing things. Because at first they think the dust people, I guess, are blind, the sand people. Then the doctor realizes that, well, no, actually, like, every grain of dust can see everything.
Well, they are blind because their vision is getting hijacked by
Yeah.
Rasmussen.
Yeah. They're not
like, yeah,
evolutionarily blind.
No,
They're
no.
just getting hijacked by technology. Like, Rasmussen
Yeah, that's true.
is using this technology to spread his, I guess, biological warfare across the galaxy. But even
Well-
still, he goes through this great effort to get a lot of like high angle shots that look like CCTV, even though there's no CCTV anywhere on the station. Just this very
It's just the
interesting.
Sandmen being like 7 feet tall.
Well, also every speck of dust can see, so apparently I guess it's just dust like in the corners of the rooms. But it's interesting. I don't know if the story says anything about which is better, man or machine, but I think the doctor is heavily on the side of maybe we shouldn't like mess with the natural evolutionary cycle of humanity.
Yeah, I guess this is the whole thing of like, you can create a machine to make sleep easier, but there's a reason we sleep like, I don't know, however long you sleep per night. I mean, I guess most people maybe 6 hours, or like there's a reason you need as much
6 to
sleep
8
as you
hours,
do.
yeah.
There's like a reason for that. Let's not like mess with that and ruin everything. And that can be applied to other like forms of tech as well.
Yeah, like driving,
Yeah.
digging holes. What's that fable about that guy who like was like, I can dig that train tunnel quicker than that machine
the
can?
Russians? Who dug that like really deep hole?
No, there's a story I remember hearing in elementary school about this guy who was like, there was this machine to dig a tunnel for a train, and this guy was like, I can dig it quicker than the train tunnel, and then like than the machine, and
And he
he
doesn't.
did, and
Oh,
then he like immediately dies like right at the end. He's like, I did it, and then he just keels over and dies in the final like 2 lines of the story
wow, sick.
after like
Yes.
proving his point, and then he just dies, and in a way actually like anti-proves his point because like if this machine can, yes, it still works slightly slower than one man digging the tunnel alone. At least the guy operating the machine doesn't just die when he's done with the
We don't
tunnel.
know that. We don't know that for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah, I
actually
have
like
no
the
idea what
kind
story that
of the
is.
man versus machine idea of the story, talking about how maybe we shouldn't be messing with nature. I guess because humans are part of nature, even though we like to consider ourselves above it now.
Yeah, so I had a few things I want to touch on here as well. First, I kind of just want to talk about the what I felt was half baked like backstory of like this India Japan like thing. I don't know. It just felt all not forced, but I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's not like it's not in. It doesn't feel in depth. It just feels like
It's like taking a shortcut to having an interesting backstory. It's like it's not really fleshed out. It just feels like it was kind of just dropped in you so people go, ah, that's an interesting idea, and then just quickly move on from it without like elaborating on it, I guess.
yeah. There. I mean, there is like the colonial stuff I want to touch on later, but this also does seem a little extraneous to that. It seems a little, yeah, just in there, or like taken from another story where it was maybe more like important.
Yeah, but at the same time, I know I personally just thought it was a cool little like world building thing that didn't need to have any sort of larger role in the story. Like it
even
wasn't
even
necessary
even
for.
still though, it kind of detract. I think it detracts from the story in a way because I mean, there's that one scene where they're talking about like this combined party, which is like I forget what it is, but it's some Japanese holiday, some Indian holiday slash Christmas party. Which like what even is an Indian holiday? Because there's like a million different like cultures within India, but as far as I know, but I
Maybe
don't know,
it's
it just
just
feels it feels
maybe it's
half
just
baked, not like researched at all. It's just like what do we know about India and what do we know about Japan? Like without looking anything up, without cracking any books, without like literally Googling for 2 seconds, put that in the story.
maybe it's just this week's half baked hybrid reference. The Indo Japanese. This is like a hybrid between India and Japan. I was actually looking for the hybrid mentioned this week, and you've pointed it out to me. You've shown the light on what it was this
Oh my
week.
god, it's India and Japan. Also, well, maybe I don't want to know this because it adds too little to the mystery. But how did India and Japan crash into each other? Because they imply that it's like literally they physically like collided.
The Great Catastrophe.
Oh yeah, duh. How could I forget? But I think another hybrid reference in this is the scene where 474 is freaking out and kind of attacking Chopra. And they say Chopra, I think, says like, can't they breed them to, or because 474 actually doesn't speak in like full sentences. It's kind of just like
It's
or it's
very
like
simple
yeah.
sentences.
She says like sentences that like maybe a 2-year-old would say or something like that. And Chopper's like, can't they breed the grunts to speak properly? And that actually I think is a hybrid like mention, right? Because that's again genes and memes, right? Well, learning a language isn't like something that you're bred for. It's not like genetic. You can't like breed. Well, as awful as it sounds, you can't like breed humans to learn a specific language because learning a language isn't like genetic. It's mimetic.
Is it though?
Yep.
Hasn't there been studies that show that like certain I'm trying to remember what it is now. That there are certain biological markers that are indicative of ease of learning languages or something like that.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there are, but that doesn't mean that like those biological markers are like the cause of that. It just means that like people with certain phenotypes live in a particular area that also speaks like that language.
I guess
I
I
think.
don't know too much
Yeah.
about the
I
study.
don't know
So
either. What little I know about like linguistics indicates that it's not like genetic at all. And I'm pretty confident in saying like, yeah, it's not genetic at all.
but maybe in the future it is. I mean, this is a fictional. I mean, it's true though. I mean, you pretty much made this argument that we can't hold them to the rules of our
Yeah,
society.
of course.
So
Yeah.
maybe in the
Maybe,
future
yeah.
or in this universe, it is genetic. You don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
You don't know. We don't know anything about these grunts actually. So
Yeah. Maybe the grunts are not human. So,
we
who
don't
knows?
even know that. They might be grown from human cells. Might be like a Davros situation going on here.
Yeah, I guess we don't know. But there's your hybrid thing for the week.
Great.
Your other hybrid thing.
I like the half-baked Japan one.
No, I'm going with this one because it has to do with the whole memes versus genes thing. Which this episode also does in another way. I just realized literally right now with like the whole spreading the spores of the sand versus like, no, actually I'm spreading the message of this video. Whoa.
But that will then create more spores of sand.
Yeah.
So.
But it's not like in a genetic way. It's in like, watch this video. Bam, now you're dead.
Bam, now you're dead. You're only dead if you can't outrun your sand. I wonder if that's... well, I assume that's not a reference to, but like outrunning the clock. But the clock's an hourglass, so you just gotta outrun that sand.
Just flip it back over.
Great. Getting back to the story at hand,
Deep Ando is like in some deep...
Well, Deep Ando gets deep sixed.
Yeah. He's trying to open a door, but it's been reprogrammed to only open if you sing the Sandman song.
Well, this is another kind of... I guess it's not a mimetic thing, but it's like a historical thing, how this song has come to just be known as the Morpheus song because it's now, I guess, in the future so intrinsically linked with Morpheus that you'd never hear it anywhere else.
Yeah, I guess there was a real huge marketing push for Morpheus because this is like these Morpheuses, or they're
Morphei.
they're fairly new, it seems like.
Well, Rasmussen is working on V2 on this space station, so it's old enough for that at least.
Yeah, they're pretty widespread on Triton, but I think some of the dialogue like says like, yeah, these are pretty new. I think they're within like the last couple of years or something.
Yeah. Pretty sure it's implied that only V2 is the one that generates these sand monsters.
No. It's a pretty big bug. Fix that.
Bug in the software.
Yeah,
he's got to sing the song,
dies.
which we haven't even mentioned what the song is, but it's Mr. Sandman by the Quartets.
Yeah.
Bring me a dream. Even though you're not dreaming in Morpheus, since you're just not even sleeping at all.
Yeah, I guess. We don't ever really find out like what kind of state Morpheus like puts you into or like really what it is.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's why you go paranoid when you haven't slept for long enough, because you start to hallucinate, because your brain like starts to merge reality with like its own creation, because it hasn't had any sleep to archive the memories. Because that's one of the most important functions of sleep is archiving memories.
Whoa, sick. We're gonna talk about Don Quixote at the end of this, so believe you me. We're gonna talk about people going crazy from lack of sleep.
Well, so now they just kind of dick around for a bit. Literally, they get locked. Well, the Doctor gets separated from Chopper and 474, but he's with Nagata and Clara, and they get locked in a cold storage room, and they just talk for the next 10 minutes about the
While
monsters.
Chopper and 474 are dying outside.
Yeah. The Doctor's like, we can't go out to get them. They're basically dead already. And Nagata's like, but they're my people. I gotta go save them. The Doctor's like, they're dead already. The Doctor hacks into their helmet cams, and Nagata's like, but we don't have helmet cams. And it takes 2 minutes for the Doctor to realize. He's like, wait, what? Kind of, he goes, wait, what did you say 1.38 minutes ago? She's like, we don't have helmet cams. And I was like, that's kind of weird.
I can't believe they didn't go for like, she says something else and the Doctor's like, no, after that. And she says something else. He's like, no, before that. And then she says helmet cams. That's a classic like TV movie like thing to do.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm kind of glad they didn't do that.
I'm not.
Would have totally taken me out of the moment.
And the half-baked India-Japan alliance culture
No, I
thing
say out of
doesn't.
the. No, because that's just the backstory of the universe. That's just like.
But it's like it's minimal backstory that feels not thought out in any way.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't matter to me. It's just backstory.
Matters to me.
But I'm talking
Every
about like
time
that.
they mention, all right, go ahead.
I was just talking like that would have taken me out of the like. Oh, I'm in the universe. Like this is a
But it's
found
all-
footage
but
thing,
it's
so
all
I'm
just
in the
a story.
universe.
It's all just a story.
Yeah, I mean that kind of undermines the whole thing at the end.
I don't think so. I think that has to do with some of the meta like aspects of this.
I guess. I don't know.
'Cause it's not
I'm not
even-
taken out of it by
'cause-
the Indo-Japanese.
It's not even like a found footage thing. It's like you yourself when you watch this are like playing the role of a character in this world watching this thing.
Yeah, that's
Which
kind of
takes-
intrinsic to the found footage format, though. I feel like that you're a character in this universe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think like a
my
lot
opinion.
of a lot of those like ghost shows on the History Channel or whatever are like this is real. Like this, you're not playing this role yourself. You're literally just watching this real like ghost stuff, which is obviously not.
Yeah,
real,
but that's kind of like the conceit of the thing is that they're like kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like, okay, like yeah, come on, we kind of know that this isn't really real,
Who's
but
that?
like,
Who's there?
but like, play along here.
If you're there, say something. Make that sound again.
It just makes a completely different noise, and they're like, that's
There
it,
it is.
it's confirmation. We found the ghost of Abraham Lincoln.
Was that movie from like 5 years ago where they're investigating the catacombs under Paris? You remember that?
Wow, that is an incredibly vague description.
No, it was kind of big. It was maybe like 2012, 2013.
I really
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, it'll be in the show notes if we can find it. Oh, actually, let me check the timestamp. Oh, we're like 43 minutes in. It might not be in the show notes. Because I get lazy after like the 20, 25 minute mark.
Well, once you say it has to be in the show notes, it has to be in the show notes. So
Don't underestimate my zoning out when I do the show notes.
if you're listening to this, and it's not in the show notes, send us an angry email so I can read it to Keon on air. So
Anyway,
then,
this is when the doctor discovers that it's the sand, actually.
yeah, the doctor's like, we gotta let them in. And it's like this really tense scene. And then Rasmussen just butts in and completely breaks the tension of the scene because he's like, that was a smart idea. It's like, wait a minute. And he's like, oh, by the way, I'm still alive. Bet you haven't figured that one out yet. And I'm like, thanks, Rasmussen, but I know that already because you're already filming these voiceovers.
He doesn't say it in that way. He's like, oh, by the way, I'm still alive, in case you couldn't tell.
Which is like, yeah, I mean, I can tell.
Yeah. Well, I guess he's just confirming that this is all taking place after the footage is recorded. Because, with time shenanigans, it's Mark Gatiss writing the episode, so,
I mean,
it
he
might
pretty
be
much
in
says,
there.
like, in this first voiceover, he's like, I'm assembling this after the events. And I tried to put them in a logical order.
Well, you know what? He pretty much says after his first explanation that he's trying to spread the spores, and then he comes back and tells you that was a total lie. So, what can we really believe? Maybe the thing about spreading the video was a lie, too. I mean, evidently it was, because I slept and I was just fine. So, what is the real purpose of this video? Maybe that's, like, where the horror aspect comes in of, like, you do sleep, and you're like, wow, I guess that was all just a total lie. Like, what was the real, like, point of watching that? Maybe there's a deeper secret to all of this.
Maybe, but... Eh.
But I don't think so.
Yeah. Rasmussen is trying to get patient 1 off the station.
Yeah, this
To
is
spread the spores.
the Fisher King. Oh no!
Nope, this is...
Every time there's like a locked like stasis chamber, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, that was the Fisher King now.
the genesis of a meme.
God, I didn't I didn't like pay too much attention to this shot when we watched whatever those episodes were
Under
called.
the lake and before the flood.
Yeah, but there's a great shot in the episode with like the Fisher King and like the flood is like coming on.
Yeah, and he
He's
just
just
puts
like
his arms
standing
out.
there and he's just like,
come at
"Oh,
me.
boy."
He's like, come at me. And there's the really like poorly CG'd like him flying towards the camera immediately afterwards that I don't think we mentioned in that episode. It looks like someone just grabbed a PNG of the Fisher King and then like zoomed in on
A
it.
Windows Movie Maker like flippy like image across the screen effect. Or like one of those like really, really low budget like late night Cartoon Network shows like Aqua Teen Hunger Force. There's like no animation whatsoever.
What?
What? Ever watched Aqua Teen Hunger
No.
Force?
No.
You're not a fan of Carl?
Not unless it's Kyle Weezer from Jimmy Neutron. So Nagata kills Rasmussen because Rasmussen's trying to use the... Rasmussen reveals that he basically did the stereotypical evil guy finds an alien plan where he's like, I teamed up with them to spread them all over the galaxy.
Yeah, so his plan was to spread the Sandmen to Triton and Neptune or whatever, and he was the one who actually disabled the grav devices because we didn't mention that someone disabled the gravity devices.
Yeah, but that seems like immediately resolved because the Doctor just turns him back on. But now the Doctor, after they kill Rasmussen, intentionally turns him on. He's like, we can just crash the station and destroy the sand monsters. We'll be fine. And then, but he's like, this is so weird because like they're filming us and it seems almost like this whole thing was set up and they're running to the TARDIS and he's just yelling. He's just yelling like, this is so weird.
Yeah, he also mentioned some of the like weird like plot beats of this. He's like, this is a classic like... This is like a story format.
Yeah, he's like it's almost like this was set up to be a story. This is weird. And then he gets in the TARDIS and leaves.
Yeah. One of the only instances of the Doctor being like, whoa, there's like something more going on here. Well, whatever. And it turns out it was all just set up to be a story because Rasmussen's real plan was to spread the video, not the spores.
Yeah, you kind of have to wonder why he went through all this effort of making this 45-minute long video and then he only puts the signal right at the end. He's like, oh, there it was.
No, I think because we had actually seen the little staticky effect before. I think he was saying that all of those were the signal. So pretty much literally
it's not the way
right
I
at the
interpreted
beginning.
it like at all, but sure. Because just the way he says is like, oh, there it was, kind of makes me feel like just that one was where he embedded the signal. Because he even says like, I needed to get it this long to embed the signal or something like that.
Maybe it was like you need to see the signal like multiple times. It needed to be that long for it to work. But I don't know. I guess you go either way on that.
But yeah, then it turns out he's a Sandman. Like the Metallica song. Into a Sandman. He starts to disintegrate. He's like, looks like you've got something in your eye. And then I rubbed my eyes because I did have something in my eye because I was really tired when I watched this.
Whoa, meta.
I was like, I see what you're doing, Doctor Who, but you can't get me.
Yeah, you can't get me to not rub my eye intentionally because you told me to. I'm going to do it anyway. Ha! I'll show you.
And then we get a next time trailer for next week.
Yeah.
And then we get the name of the episode at the top of the credits, I think for the first time ever, because it wasn't actually in the title sequence. We didn't have a title sequence in this episode.
You mean the name wasn't Doctor Who with Clara perpendicular to each other? I thought that was the title of this episode.
Nope, surprise.
Speaking of naming things, let's talk about colonialism.
Brilliant segue.
What's his face? Chopra rails into Rasmussen and Morpheus for colonizing dreams.
Sleep,
whatever. And the Doctor also is not a fan of colonialism, but it seems like he's kind of doing the colonial naming thing in this because he gets mad at Clara for naming the Sandmen. She's like, yeah, I named them the Sandmen. Pretty good, huh? The Doctor's like, no. I'm the Doctor. I'm the one who names things. And in the way he's saying, I'm the one who colonizes things, right? He goes to places and names them, even though they probably already have a name, you know?
I'm pretty sure it's just for naming species that don't have names. I mean, to me, it was a throwback to last season when he exiles the Boneless from the planet. He's like, I dub thee the Boneless. And in a way, by giving them a name, he takes away their power because
yeah, exactly.
Intrinsically, their power was linked to not knowing who they were and what their powers were. And it's kind of the same thing in this episode, that we don't really know what the Sandmen are or their abilities or anything about them, but by giving them a name, we take away some of their power.
Yeah, giving someone a name really delimits them, which is like a big function of colonial, or not a function of colonialism. It's a big like technique of colonialism,
Yeah.
which we've talked about this before of like the colonial like thing that I mean this isn't new to Doctor Who. It's been going on since the
Go back to
beginning.
the mutants.
Best third Doctor story right there. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I think it's maybe in contrast with the Indo-Japan thing. That doesn't seem like colonialism so much as like two places that maybe just
Literally crashed into each
yeah,
other.
and sort of became morphed into one thing. There's actually I don't know, there's this picture. I'll see if you can find it and link it. There's a sign. It's like I think it's somewhere in the U.S. I don't know which state, but it's a like a road sign, a freeway sign, and green sign that you typically see, and it's No Name Creek, and someone just like crossed it out and wrote like the actual name of the creek from the natives who live there, and it's like a 50-letter name. But yeah,
Well, that's like when the United States admitted that there were people here before the white people and renamed Mount McKinley back to its name in I don't know what tribe named it, but now it's called Denali again.
no, we're still
Like
at war.
officially.
The U.S. is still like officially on paper at war with like a bunch of tribes.
The entire United States process for going to war has been like totally thrown out the window ever since World War II. Because fun fact, Vietnam and Korea and Afghanistan and Iraq, I guess, saying it the American way, are not official wars.
Yeah,
Which is they get around because the Constitution says Congress has to declare war. They get around it by calling them quote unilateral military actions unquote.
yeah.
Anyway, that scene where Clara names the Sandman is interesting as well because, like I said, it throws back to when the Doctor named the Boneless last season. But in that aspect, it also demonstrates how Clara is taking over the more doctorish role here,
Right. Yeah.
where she's the one who names it, and the Doctor like makes an oblique reference, like, "Damn, it's like the Silurians all over again." Because if I remember correctly, the Doctor wanted to just call him like their species name, which is like Homo reptilia or something, and then like I think it was the Brig or just unit in general started calling them the Silurians, and the Doctor's like, I guess, but they have like a name already, and they were like, no, we're calling them the Silurians, and the Doctor's like, but they already have a name.
Maybe Clara being like a total pedant in this episode is her becoming more like the Doctor. Doctor gets pretty pedantic at times, especially the sixth Doctor. Peri, a fairy from Persian mythology.
I remember that.
All the times he like references Beowulf, the Doctor actually quotes Macbeth multiple times in this story. Another
That's
story
where the
about
title
like
of the
lack
episode
of
comes
sleep.
from.
Right? Yeah.
Which is probably a good segue into our closing out things. I don't have anything else to say, actually.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, this episode is about like lack of sleep and going crazy, and which literary character is most famous for doing that? Well, it has to be Don Quixote.
Does it have to be Don
Yeah,
Quixote?
yeah, he's the most famous.
Could it be someone else?
No, it has to be him. He's the most famous, but like that's also interesting because Don Quixote is like not obviously not the first, but it's like the most seminal. I don't know if something can be the most seminal, but it's a big step in like the history of metafiction, which is interesting because it's linked to actually metafiction has always been linked to sleep and or lack of sleep, even going back to like Chaucer with dream visions, and just dream vision the dream vision genre in general is actually pretty interesting if you like medieval lit. But yeah, Don Quixote. Most people remember Don Quixote as like, all right, he read too much and now he's confusing the stories with reality. But like, if you actually go back and read that first like chapter or whatever, it's actually not just the reading. It's actually the text very heavily indicates that it's the too much reading and too little sleep is how he starts combining reality with the stories he's read.
Yeah, I guess that whole ego paranoid when you don't sleep enough is playing out there. I just remember him for chasing windmills.
Yeah, that's
Never
what he's
actually read
most
Don Quixote.
remember. He doesn't
So
chase them. He sort of just he thinks they're giants, and he sort of just tries to like joust them. It's a really interesting story. I mean, if you're willing to sit down and read the like 900 pages that
I'm
it is
not.
or whatever. Halfway through, the most interesting part is one of the most meta parts. Where like halfway through, the the author starts talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I didn't write this story. I actually found it in Arabic, written by this guy named Baron Hena, which means eggplant in Spanish. And I found this Arabic-speaking guy like on the street, and he translated this for me, and I put my name on it. This is actually
wow,
like an
that sounds a
old
lot
myth.
like that sounds like a lot like what's his name? Who wrote the Book of Mormon? John Smith or something. He's like, I didn't write this. God gave it to me in a vision. But then when someone stole the first like 20 pages and they're like, so God could just give them to you again, right? And you just write it again. He's like, no. Gotta keep going. That's not suspicious at all.
But yeah, I mean, he wrote it. Like the guy who wrote, I don't know, or Cervantes. What am I talking about? It's Miguel Cervantes. Yeah, everyone knows that. No, I mean, the whole, that's fake. Like he wrote it. It's his story.
Is it fake though? Can we really know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can we really know?
I guess not.
Again, like I said, I don't have anything else to say about the story. So
yeah, I liked it.
I liked it, but
meta
less
enough
than
for
the
my
rest.
taste.
I liked it less than the rest of the season. I knew as soon as the doctor said, this is all like a story, that you were going to like this because it was very meta.
I didn't like it that much.
Yeah,
It was just
you liked
like
it quite a bit.
Yeah. Not the best this season. That would have to be.
It's probably Zygon for me.
No.
Zygon 2-parter for me.
I would say Before the Flood and
Under the Lake.
Lake, yeah.
Also a solid choice. You pretty much can't go wrong with any of the stories this season.
So far.
So I guess.
So Sonic Screwdriver.
Shades.
Yeah.
I have him for activating Morpheus, hacking footage, and turning on the Morpheus song. Look, I even wrote Morpheus song, even though I know what song it is.
Wow. Yeah, I had Unknown Purpose in there. I don't know if that was covered by...
Probably. I actually think there was
yours.
an unknown purpose in there.
This is actually interesting because we've had Unknown Purpose, I think almost, if not every week, almost every week since Matt Smith's first episode.
Pretty much.
And this season, I think, was the first time where there were maybe a few episodes in a row where we went without Unknown Purpose.
Yeah. Pretty sure I didn't have an unknown purpose last week.
No, yeah.
Zygon. Invasion, inversion.
Yeah.
And I don't have any quotes for this episode, so.
Well, I just have a Macbeth quote. It's not even...
It's not even a quote from Doctor Who.
No,
it's
yeah.
just...
Well, this episode quotes Macbeth quite a bit, like we said before, the Doctor does. So I just pulled a quote that... Because Macbeth has my favorite literary quote of all time in it. So I just pulled that one, even though it's not in this episode. But it actually weirdly has something to do with this episode. It's... Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? No, this my hand will rather the multitudinous seas incarnadine, making the green one red. It's my favorite quote of all time.
Interesting.
And it has Neptune in there, which this episode is taking place around Neptune. So there you go. That's how I linked these two together.
Sounds like one of those things people say when they want to sound smart, but maybe aren't actually.
What, you say my hand is bloodied forever and I'll never get over killing this guy when you want to sound smart?
And why not just say that? Why go with this whole when the green meets red, when the red meets green thing?
Well, one of the reasons I really like this quote is not only because it's the ecological aspects of it. By the way, Macbeth has a lot of ecological stuff going on.
Yeah, well, the
Read
trees literally move.
Read it again.
The trees literally move. How do you miss that?
No, people, it's not been explored at all. I mean, if you go and look up scholarly literary research about Macbeth, there's almost nothing that touches on this. But one of the reasons I also like this is because what you're saying is really rings true in this. He says, no, this my hand will rather the multitudinous seas incarnadine, making the green one red. In that sentence, he's literally saying the same thing twice. The first half, he's using, obviously the whole thing's English, but he's using words that originate from Southern European languages. And the second half, he's repeating what he's saying, but using Northern European or Germanic origin words. So I'll just read it again. Know this, my hand. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess I'll just start halfway through the line. The multitudinous seas incarnadine, making the green one red. And there's actually there's a lot of that in Macbeth, where it's like a character will say the same thing again, but use like different words. And you don't pick up on it at first, or I didn't pick up on it at first. But then you notice like, wow, there's like a lot of like linguistic weird stuff going on here. Really interesting.
Yeah, maybe to you, not to me. Honestly, could care less. Couldn't care less. Not a big fan of Shakespeare myself, I'm being honest.
No, neither am I. But like
I like Midsummer Night's Dream though.
Midsummer Night's Dream is one of the best. Actually, that's more meta. That's the most meta like Shakespeare play.
Well, yeah, it's literally a play within a play that's like played out throughout the entire thing.
And even at the end, what's his face comes out and is like, by the way, if you didn't like this, it was all a dream. But if you did like it, it wasn't.
Yeah, Puck.
But I mean, this even like this pervades like the English. This has nothing to do with Doctor Who now. But whatever.
We're way off the beaten path now.
No, but this pervades like the English language even to this day. Of like the, we have like English has one of the biggest vocabularies of any language in the world because we have like the Germanic words that are native to English, and we also have Romance language origin words, which all those are Indo-European, but still is like what sounds fancier and better, like royal or kingly, perspire or sweat. It's like even today, like even in California 2019, it's like stuff from French sounds like fancier to, or it sounds like smarter to us, or it sounds better to us somehow.
Because it's French.
Yeah, and that's
because French is very historically.
No, it's because
regal.
the Norman. No, it's because like, well, actually, I don't think French was transmitted totally in the Norman conquest, but no, it's because French speakers ruled England. Like that was like those words were not the language
of the royals.
Yeah, no, those words are not like the language of the common people, and that's why they sound better. But like even to us, like
yeah, I think
thousands
you're saying the
of
exact
years
same
later,
thing that I just said.
Yeah, thousands of years later, it's still there, which is crazy to me.
France is one of the 5 Security Council languages, so you could argue that it's still one of those languages spoken by the, I don't know if you could, the quote royals unquote, but it's really just the UN.
Yeah, I mean it's a colonial language too. So there you go. And yeah, now for the meme flow analog, the segment that we're seriously thinking about not having anymore. I just had a reference to the space pirates. I forget where it is. I think
I didn't even pick up on that
close
one.
to the beginning of the episode. Someone's like, "What's going on here? Is it space pirates or something like that?"
Oh,
which is like not necessarily. Yeah, I guess it's a reference to the space pirates.
I mean, it's when Clara's like being all meta herself, where she's like, go to a space restaurant, and the doc's like, people don't just prepend the word space to things to make them sound cool. That's not how it works. And then someone's like, are you space pirates? And Clara's like, see?
Yeah, well, that doctor's totally wrong here. People actually do that.
Yeah. Space Doctor Who. See, already sounds cooler.
Terry Nation.
Terry Nation was the biggest defender of taking words and then just like slightly changing them. Oracle.
Or just adding the Phibians from Blake 7. Or just adding space in front of stuff. Didn't he do that a couple times?
Yeah, I think so.
Mostly on Blake 7. But did Terry Nation write the Space Pirates? I don't think he did.
I don't think so. Who wrote the Space Pirates? Who wrote that travesty of a story? Actually, I think we consider it less bad than everyone else. I remember
it being pretty awful, honestly.
But I don't remember hating it, though. It was a reconstruction.
I think it's because we really disliked the massacre, and that was somehow like within the second season of Doctor Who.
Space Pirates is the mostly missing episode. Oh, it was written by Bob Holmes.
Oh, wow. Blight on his record. Who wrote the massacre, come to think of it? I don't even remember.
Probably some nobody.
Probably, yeah. Probably why they didn't write a Doctor Who story and just wrote, like, some guy dicking around during the French Revolution, honestly.
Yeah, well, according to Peter Purves, it's, like, the most Doctor Who story of all time.
I think what he actually said is, like, if you don't like the massacre, then you're not watching Doctor Who for the right reasons or something
It
along
was written
those
by
lines.
John Lucarotti and Donald Tosh.
Oh yeah, those famous writers.
Well, anyway, if you'd like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctordecadavegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on not sleeping ever again. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. Next time we're going to be watching Face the Raven. But until then, the end.